Good morning, Sofia. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good. It's Friday morning, so looking forward to the weekend in a bit. But so happy to talk to you about your fashion and how it relates to sustainability, and to congratulate you on your year prize, which is so great.
Thank you. Yeah.
I thought before we get into a deeper discussion about what you're doing and how you're working with sustainability, I'm curious how you first chose fashion as your means of expression.
I think, well, it started quite early on. My mom used to sew clothes for me and my siblings, so I saw her doing clothes, and I just remember kind of like just watching her doing that and being so fascinated about the way a flat piece of material can turn into this like 3D shape and wearable garments. So I think, and after that I started doing quite a traditional way of like making clothes for my dolls, and some little things like bags and accessories for myself, and then gradually then later on making clothes for myself. So I think that was definitely the kind of the main thing that got me interested on clothes. And then I started to at some point like read about fashion history, and I thought that's so interesting how all that kind of like relates to whatever is happening in the world, and all the situations. So I thought that's so interesting. And yeah, after that, I mean, it was kind of like it wasn't a direct route after that I knew exactly like, okay, fashion is the thing that I want to do. And maybe that was because I'm from quite a small town in Finland, and people who work with, well, clothes, not necessarily in fashion, it's more like seamstresses who does alterations or some bespoke garments. So I guess from that point it was quite hard to imagine what that could be like if you don't want to be just be a seamstress. So I guess I was just like dreaming about it through pages of fashion magazines, and then yeah, bit by bit I actually then studied clothing artisan, and then bit of a happy accident how I ended up in the UK, and then working there and studying there. And I think that was the major stepping stone into fashion world.
That's so interesting. Another thing that sticks out to me is that you mentioned watching your mom turn something flat into 3 dimensions, but your approach to fashion is actually flat. And then it's up to the person to make the dimensions. So it's a funny circularity. But for our listeners, can you explain your modular approach to design, please?
Absolutely, yeah. So in a way, it is actually quite simple form. They are square modules, and where the square comes from, it's actually 75 times 75 centimeters, which is cut to like a full width of fabric cut to half. So that's how I get the square modules. And then on top of the module, there's always this structure that enables the modules to be gathered into shape, and also button and loop mechanism, which allows the pieces to be attached together. And the buttons are especially designed for my modular structure. So there are 2-headed ones, and you can loop them through their button loops. So the pieces can be attached together without sewing. So that's what makes it quite easy to take them apart, put them together. So There are slightly different square modules with different structures, but they are still all the same size and shape. So why is that? Is because I'm thinking already into the future how the modules can be reused. So at least the shape of the module does not determine what part of the garment they needs to be. So that then allows any kind of modification done into the garment and again to be created into new silhouette quite easily.
So this gives the wearer quite a bit of control over the final design in a way.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, if you are into doing your own garments, or if you are kind of crafty, you could absolutely create your own garment, even your own design. So I think that makes it quite fun as well. If I quite often relate my modular system into like Lego blocks and how, you know, everyone can create their own kind of buildings using Lego blocks. So that's similar idea with the square modules as well.
How was sustainability and circularity built into your curriculum?
Where I studied. Yeah. Well, if I think about now Aalto University and my master studies there is actually one compulsory course about sustainable fashion and textiles. And yeah, that was quite thorough. But all in all, I think the whole master degree definitely kind of inspires you to work more sustainably. So I think even though one course might not too much, but I think throughout the course, we are always talking about sustainability. So definitely, although I could see that, yeah.
And so can you give us, so every designer, you know, approaches this topic in an individual way. I mean, yes, there are shared materials, but it means something different. Some people are working, you know, very closely with the producers, and some people are materials focused, some people are upcycling. And for your brand, what does sustainability mean in actuality?
Well, I think how the whole concept building started for me. I mean, I was very much focused on material side of sustainability. So thinking about what materials are the most sustainable that they are. But then I thought, like, I think there needs to be something more kind of like a whole system where it's based, because in a way it seems too little just to change the materials if it feeds into the same system, which is like over consuming the raw materials so much. So this concept I read from somewhere, I can't exactly remember who said this, but how somehow sustainable fashion can be quite contradictory, because fashion is about change, but then sustainability about like stability and longevity. So that kind of like started to really like tickle in my mind, thinking how could those two be actually combined. So for me then, for this concept, it was so much about the system thinking, circularity. So that's how it started to like develop into that direction, that the system is kind of like can be circulated. And in my case, I guess it goes between the brand, so me, and then the customer, so it circulates there. Obviously you can, if you buy one garment, it could stay like that as long as you want, but then if you want to have like the new season style, you could send it back to the brand can change it into the new season silhouette, and then it goes again to the customer, and then you can enjoy the new silhouette and so forth. So yeah, that was my kind of like idea then, thinking about sustainability through the like system thinking, I would say.
That's fascinating. And where do you make and produce your garments?
At the moment, I mean, it's here in Helsinki. It's still really small scale, but I would like to also in the future keep it quite close by me, so I can be sure that obviously the working conditions are the appropriate ones, and so yeah, still here in Helsinki so far.
Fantastic. I've been thinking a lot about this over the past couple of years, but this, I don't know if it has an official name, but sort of this theory of limitations. When I was working at a museum one year, the director asked the students to work only with denim, for example, rather than, any fabric that they wanted. And the results were really strong. And the thought was that it sort of simplified things so they could focus on the design. And I myself have felt sometimes, well, I usually know what I really like, when I was faced with a choice of hundreds of kitchen cabinets in this situation, I kind of totally lost my mind. I didn't know, it was overwhelming. So, and people have written about this, that when you don't have access to every single thing, it sometimes, fosters creativity, because you need to find solutions. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that subject.
Yeah, I think actually I found the same thing when I was doing the modular design, because some people said, like, why do you only do this same size square? Like, why don't you do different size squares or different shapes, which you can create with the zero waste fashion, as this is actually the square modules can be done in that way. And well, one thing was the fact that I just told you that then actually those squares can be used on any parts of the garment, but also this challenge, a good challenge where I can only use this same square. I didn't find it restrictive. I thought it was a good kind of almost box for me to design in. And I think it was great for me. And I didn't, like I said, I didn't find it restrictive. I was actually more inspired. And I think I did a lot better work like that than having all the different shapes in the world.
That's super interesting. And also in these years with COVID, talking with students, especially the knitwear students, because they rely on the machines at the school and they didn't have access to them. And the solutions, literally homemade solutions that they came up with, like machines they found at tag sales, or I can't remember, the exact details, but they really had to do workarounds, and it was incredible what they were able to come up with. It was really, really inspiring. Are there any other things that you'd like to bring up about this important subject in relation to fashion and your work in particular?
Well, one another thing with the modular concept here is the almost like one size fits all approach. Because again, the squares are gathered to fit the person, so there's a lot of room for different body shapes. So I find that super amazing to have that feature. I mean, we're all different shapes and sizes, so I think that leaves a lot more room for people to actually test and be themselves, and not no matter the size, And I guess in fashion especially, it's been so long the similar shape and size that almost like fit the fashion image. So in a way, I find that really refreshing. And also, if I think from the designer's point of view, it leaves again kind of like, in a way, I don't need to create different sizes, so there won't be an like excess stock, for example, because they all are kind of like one size fits all. Obviously that doesn't, not on all of the styles probably would work the same, but that's the basic idea behind it as well, that it's only one size. So
I love that, and I love seeing this expansion of the beauty ideal to be more inclusive in all kinds of ways. And sizing is also something that obviously can lead to a lot of waste, right? If someone buys, 6 of every size and only one size sells, there's a lot of extra. And I see a lot of designers returning, or thinking about, I should say, returning to a sort of made to order model, which is something that's old that seems new again. So you could either produce in sizes, or I spoke to one designer that it's made to order with a twist. It's program knits so that there are standard sizes, but you could, if you need a size 8, for example, like, you will wait until they make the size 8. So it's not made to your specific measurements, but it's made, it's kind of individually made, or in a small batch for, the number. So I think this idea of one size, or being able to produce small batches in sizes that there are demands for, or actual orders, seems like a really interesting avenue to pursue.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And what's next for you, do you think?
Well, I just I don't know if you noticed, but I was in Berlin Fashion Week, showcasing a new collection, new or I would say new silhouettes, but it was created using exactly the same modules as on the previous collection. So that was actually really nice for me to see. Is this like what I've been saying, like how does that actually work? And I think it worked really well. So I think I'm taking a little bit of time off now, just to think about what's next. But I'm building a web shop at the moment as well, so I can offer the garments to a wider audience, and also developing the module structure even further. I have so many ideas what I can do with the modules. So yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do next.
Well, I can't wait to see your next steps, and please keep me in the loop. I don't want to miss anything. Thank you so much for your time, Sofia.
You're very welcome. It was lovely to talk with you.